You are now entering the Cue The Muses podcast. Please reserve submission of any joy meter statistics until after the program.
Welcome back yet again.
Good evening, and keep the joy statistics reporting coming in.
Joy meter statistics.
I do like the joy meter statistics.
I think it's fun.
Statistics.
I was like, when I was typing that in for the AI voice to then say what I typed out, I was like, is it going to be able to say this? Because is it joy meter? Well, I guess, is that a thing? Is that a word? Joy meter?
A joy meter, I'm picturing like in the Alien movie where like it blip, 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 and it's like there's a little green dot and it gets closer and closer, but more like the joy meter is like there's more and more green dots. But if it was an alien, the higher the joy meter, the more likely you are to be completely annihilated because they're coming through the walls and the ducts. Let's see.
Totally. It's funny that you're picturing like a movie prop like that for like a physical joy meter thing, because every time I hear it, I kind of think of the crystal scene in the first episode of Cue the Muses, and we're using the it's not the Ghostbusters,
the trademark deleted measuring tool for body imprint.
Totally morphed for Cue the Muses. So don't come after us, copywriters.
If anyone can guess what the device actually is, send us a message on
which I've sat with people and they literally said and then they
immediately. Hey, that's one of the oh, okay. I thought when we painted it a different color, it was going to be so much different.
Right. But then it's actually cool because it is, Ghostbusters. I grew up with Ghostbusters, totally an influence. Absolutely.
Oh, 100%, man. That was a childhood.
Who was your favorite?
Bill Murray. Bill Murray, and of course Venkman, and man, all of them. Winston, Egon. What was Aykroyd's character's name?
Dude.
I'm drawing a blank on him. Somebody.
What was this?
It was Peter Venkman. It was Egon, Winston, and Dan Aykroyd. I'm drawing a blank.
If this was a live stream, people would be crucifying us with like, idiots. It's obviously. Well, you'll have to comment on our episode so we get more comments on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's and I do apologize, guys. I shouldn't know, but it's been a long couple of days. It's been traveling for me. I worked up in the Panhandle this week. Last night, I was with Kurt and Defy the Tyrant at Club LA in Destin, and they opened up for the band Ginger. And if a lot of people should know who Ginger is. If you don't know who Ginger is, it is a hardcore Ukrainian 4-piece metal band fronted by a very, very talented and attractive woman named Tatiana, who I had no idea. I had no idea. But Tatiana is actually married to the original drummer from Suicide Silence. And he's a current drummer of POD, of all bands. I had no idea. And that's such a big difference in a band to jump from a Suicide Silence to POD. It was interesting. And he was actually there he was not touring, so he was there with them running drum tech for their drummer at the show last night. And it blew the roof off the place.
Was it a great show?
It was so good.
Awesome.
Super high energy and very, very impressive for the amount of energy and just roaring performance from essentially a 3-piece music, single guitar, bassist, and drummer, and a front woman. And I don't believe any of the members did any sort of backups either. So it was all her, 100% her. I don't recall hearing really any backtracks other than like stuff in between the songs, maybe.
Yeah.
Just raw, lots of screams. She's got just an
Nice.
incredible scream, growly voice, and then beautiful, clean singing too. Really,
Yeah, I'm
really
not.
good.
I had never even heard of him until I saw the flyer that Defy the Tyrant was playing on a bill with them at Club LA, and I assumed it was a big deal, but I honestly hadn't heard of him before.
Yeah, admittedly, I
Thing.
know
It's not like I'm hip on everything. I mean, there's a lot of shit I don't know about. I don't mean to play it that way.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff out there.
Yeah.
There's so much good stuff out there, and admittedly, I wasn't familiar with their catalog. I know who they are, but I'm not familiar with, I don't know how many albums they have, which one's the best, which one's my favorite. I just not that familiar, but it was all great. Kurt's band did very well at their merch table. I actually helped them sell merch. I was running the Square D reader. They had a great night, and I can only imagine, with the percentage of people there and how many people stopped by, because interesting. So just the two bands. It was only
that's it.
Yeah, it was Wednesday night show.
Yeah,
early
great.
show. Yeah, and that they Defy the Tyrant told me they had better sales last night than they ever had, and
that's awesome. I saw pictures; it looked packed.
It was nearly sold out for a Wednesday night.
That's
nearly
amazing.
Sold out show, and people came from everywhere. I mean, I ran into multiple friends from Tallahassee. David Stratton from Lunar Urge in Tallahassee was there. Hunter Dawes, our bass player from Cue The Muses, bumped into him and his wife Caitlin there. I rubbed her belly. It was good to see them
because she's having a baby, guys.
Yes.
In case you don't know.
Oh,
when we see each other's ladies, we rub their bellies.
Yeah, just because.
Just because. They're good. He's going to be a daddy soon. First timer.
Yeah, I'll have to before we upload this. I will have to message Hunter and make sure he's okay with us talking about it.
Well, I've seen that he put up photos of them posing, like classic, like pre-delivery, pre-having baby pictures. Yeah. So they're advertising it.
Okay. Great. I didn't want to throw you under the bus, Hunter.
Yeah. But yeah, they got to be getting close, I think.
Oh yeah, it's such a good time, man. And but then the drive home from Destin back to the place in Wakulla, and then today I had to do a personal thing for some people very close to me. Is not a fun thing that I don't really want to get too deep in, but it was a court hearing for a friend of mine who's in an unfortunate situation in the state corrections system. It was not good news on that hearing, but the day he's not in any worse shape than he was when he woke up this morning. So he's just not in any better shape. So that's unfortunate. But those kind of things are hard. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're going to talk about, I think, filming music videos, which is part of the grind in the fact that it sounds fun. And when you have more experience in doing music videos than me, because you actually have been doing them for quite some time. I think you started doing music videos, over 10 years ago, if I count right.
I think the first music video I made, real amateur hour here, but I think was like 16 or 17 years ago.
Yeah. And that would have been Kill Clouseau's music video, right? We kind of talked about that on the last episode, I think.
That's right. Yeah. And it was like getting started with, and before I even had the better cameras, like the first tier of prosumer level camcorders, they were still camcorders that were standard definition. I was using handy cams. Yeah, they were Panasonic. But the first thing I had was Sony handy cams. So that was, that's a lot of people's first attempts in that time.
So is a handy cam, am I thinking right? Is it the one that flips off to the side?
Yep. You
flip the side out and you can see the little image there.
That's right. It just fits in one palm. It's a total consumer level product. And, you'd see anybody carrying those. They were like
essentially it's the same thing as
something like that.
Yeah. It's like almost the same thing as a digital camera. It has a screen, right? But the handy cam was it was linear and it was oriented like a film camera.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a little vertical. And this is before, phones had the ability to film. Again, this is back in the days of standard definition. And, which is 480p, and then when it got to HD, I remember drooling over a camera that could film in 720p. Was the model that was up from my prosumer level standard definition cameras. And I was drooling over 720p, but it was like this crazy concept of only being able to film like 12 minutes at a time. And you'd burn up a whole DV tape. You had to buy tape. So it's not like this was SD cards. And you're just plowing through.
Like real tape.
Yeah, like just like a little, it almost looks like a little miniature VHS tape. It was mini DV was the technology. And, you could fit roughly on standard definition, you could fit like an hour, but with this 720p stuff, and the way this camera behaved and the specific cards that you had to use, you were back in this realm. Oh, you know what? It actually filmed on P2 cards, come to think of it, which are SD cards. It was a proprietary thing Panasonic made called P2 cards. And I'm getting way too techy, but bottom line is this only filmed for 12 or 15 minutes at a time. And I was thinking, geez, like the camera's expensive, the cards are crazy expensive. And then you get to this beautiful digital world where we can record almost endlessly. And then I reverted back to that world when I bought a RED camera. And I'm back to like these cards, these RED mags, and you're filming in RAW 6K. And it's being eaten up in 12 minutes if I do it at maximum quality. I got a card that's going to burn up in 12 minutes of footage again. So you finally end up landing there again. But the technology is way better. We're talking 6K, not 720p. So,
But we talk about this, like we are right now. And before I did the first music video that I ever was a part of in any way was when Defy the Tyrant hired you to do their first music video for Fighting Gravity. And my perception up until that point, really for music videos, and just like we're kind of talking about this casually, shooting a music video, it was that it's the best, most fun thing that there is. And it is fun.
Yeah.
But the naivety of just how much work is actually going into it. Well, I was completely naive to the sheer mountain of work to do a music video, even a strictly performance video. When Defy the Tyrant reached out to me, in my involvement in their video, which I just came and helped. My partner Amber was an actress in their video.
Yeah, she was the
lead character in the story arc. And I came just for the one day that she was there. I didn't make it for day 2. You guys did another day of filming on a different location. And the first day it was a long day. I remember we went into, I think we got into the 3 or 4 a.m. Category by the time we were done.
And that was all just out here on my property.
Yeah.
It was the first project I ever did that was paid, that I went ahead and hosted on my own property because it was the right look and had the right stuff in it for the video.
Yep. You had the tub. She's in your tub,
Which sounds like, you're just going to film a music video at home. Cake, right? This is easy. That'll be easy. Relaxed, easy.
Super easy. And then, next thing you know, it's 2 a.m. You've got extension cords running to ring lights in the middle of the woods. There's fog machines running. People are tripping and falling. They're in the water at some point in a pond on the property. And, it was insane, but it was so much fun. And then when I actually hired you to do our video, the day starts and you start filming, and the performance video, I was very much wanting, high energy. It's like my idea of it for performance videos for music, it's like kung fu in a movie to me. Like, it doesn't have to be the practical way that you would play all the time, but you want it to look fun and very cool, and you want it big. And so instead of throwing a straight punch, you want a big flashy kung fu move and come from the planet Neptune. And the same thing with guitar stroke. You want that huge, powerful energy in there, and doing that over and over and over again for
That's right.
hours.
That's right.
It was so hard. And I remember after that first day of filming, coming home and beyond regretting, wearing my old, wore out favorite pair of mixed match colors, Converse All Stars,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
had zero soul in them. And we were on concrete and jumping, doing the jumps in the performance scenes, and just smashing my feet all day. They were so swollen and bruised and just beat to
Yeah.
hell. It was
Well,
hard.
and
It was one of the
something
hardest things I ever did.
that's right. It's like, I mean, I come from a lot of manual labor jobs before getting into video production. And one of those labor jobs was stagehand work. So I was kind of familiar with how taxing can be to like just, running cable and, pulling stuff around, moving carts and pushing things uphill and keeping a pace that works for a show, which, if you're doing video. But even still, it's a full team of people. And, I've said a couple of times throughout these podcasts that when I make music videos, that most of my income comes from doing branding videos for clients, right? Like companies that have national branding, international branding. When that's happening, I don't have them participate in helping set up everything. But when I do a music video, I cannot afford, I'm cutting a lot of, I'm taking a financial loss to do it, but it's an artistic thing. And I've got these guys here, and it's usually guys. That's what I mainly have been hired for. I'm more than happy to do an all female group. If you guys approach me to do a music video, that'd be phenomenal. I need that for my portfolio anyway. But it's like, it's very physical because you guys, part of the reason you're so taxed and everyone gets so taxed, is like, we're all moving all this stuff around. I mean, I'm moving all the cameras around, but you guys are moving all your rigs around, your cabinets, you're putting them up in crazy places. We're moving drums over to certain areas. And this is all on top of trying to stay in a performance ready headspace with high energy. You're dripping sweat from having hauled everything around from all the different locations that we're trying to get to. I mean, and I'm moving, and you guys are helping with the cameras. I'm helping lift the cab on one side when I can, whatever gets us more shots over the course of the night. The last thing that happens is I'm set up and watching you guys do something, or you guys are set up and you're just watching me do something. You're like rehearsing or figuring out something or coming over and helping me move something if it needs to happen. And that is what I end up having to do with bands, period, because that's just, well, one, what we accomplish. If it was, it would normally be a full crew. And if it wasn't a full crew and it was nobody else participating, we would just end up with one setup. That's really what we would end up with. We'd spend a whole day, we'd get one setup, and we'd film a ton of angles with that one setup. And I see that done a lot, in particular with, not, I don't know what the right term is, but not amateur music videos, but like first time music videos, low budget music videos. Sure. That's what they'll do. And I think for me, for a music video, when I have one coming up, I start training physically. Like I'm up in my cardio, I'm up in my, like I'm keeping in mind my nutrition, I'm keeping in mind my sleep leading up to it, because I know the nights that we're going to do it, it's going to be very low sleep. I mean, as much as I can, I actually pretend like I'm getting ready for a fight or something, because I know it's going to be so physically taxing. Now, I could make it not that way. I could be a lot lazier about it. We could do the single setup, but we wouldn't end up with nearly as cool stuff. And that's how we accomplish so much in just a couple of nights of filming,
Yeah, it's, and the more time, obviously, the more time you the more time you spend doing the music video, if you add days to it, you're already at a cut, because it's not as well of a paying thing as a corporate gig. So then you're just increasing the cut, which is not good for anybody. And, with bands, when bands hire you, I know in my instance, I want to help you facilitate this in the best way. Like, I know that you're doing it at a cost cut for us because it's something you love. So it's on us to make sure that we help you at every step of the way. And carrying gear, moving equipment. And, I got to the point with you where you were comfortable with me holding cameras for things. I helped you with another performance, strictly performance video for This Dying Breed.
That's right.
And we shot that actually at the same location that Cue the Muses music video for episode 1. and 2 was filmed just in other areas, and
Mhm.
strictly performance, no acting, still was all night, and just move and just I realized just holding the cameras, because not every
Yeah.
shot is just a tripod shot. You
Right.
want, in order to get the energy, you have the movement, and I tried to mimic you in some of your shot styles, and just holding that camera's not light, especially the
Yeah.
red.
The red
The red's a
surprisingly heavy.
20-pound brick,
It really
and
is.
then
Yeah.
you're holding that thing and trying to hold it steady without
Right.
jumbling around
Right.
for however long that song is for the take. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a 5-minute song, and then you're shooting it 40 times, 40 takes
That
probably.
is- Yeah. I mean, it's hard to quite quantify, because one way that we stretch this out is doing multiple cameras for each take. That is something that has enabled us to come away with, on all these music videos, Defy the Tyrants music video, the Cue the Muses videos, the one that we did for this Dying Breed that you participated in. We're running usually a minimum of 3 cameras at one time for each take. So, every time we're getting 3 takes out of that. And oftentimes I'm coming back with somewhere between 70 to 100 takes, performances of these songs, because of the multiple cameras and because of how many times I want to do different takes, because each take is usually a different angle setup, a different lens setup, a different plan, and and also trying to do, but one thing that gives a little bit of a break is I like to do individual shots too. So there's like usually the full band shots, and then there's the individual shots, which so people kind of get a little bit of a break if it's not their thing. But it's a lot of focus, a lot of high energy. I want people to, it's very, very challenging to make a music video entertaining if people are being very still on a high energy sounding song. It just doesn't make sense. It's different if it was like a low key, stripped down acoustic, or I get it. I'm not jumping around to be ridiculous. But if you have a song that sounds like it's punching you in the face at times, and you're not moving, and I cut to you, it kills the video. It's painful.
The energy drops. It's like you have to put it in. You have to put the energy in. And then unfortunately, when you film a music video, you have to put the energy into it 70 times, over the course, or however many times, depending on the camera setup and angles. And I instantly have more respect for understanding, seeing music videos and understanding the difficulty levels for the video, whether that's, and not to say, not to say that single setup music videos aren't as awesome or as taxing sometimes, because I'm sure depending on how they do it, I know you always prefer to do multiple setup locations, and there are videos that, like you said, kind of some of the amateur ones where they're just trying to figure it out, single setup, single go. I don't think I've ever done one, because I've only shot music videos with you the way you do it. Some of my favorite music videos seem to be like single shot stuff, but I gotta believe that the ones where the performance is there, that's not an easy shot. It's like the good ones are the ones that they put the work in. Not the easy button.
That's right. There are, you're drawing a good point. There are definitely high professional music videos that are done predominantly with one setup, one ultimate room. Usually, in general, that is a budget limitation. So it's not something that they elected to do. If they had more of a budget, because what is charged by a full crew for a production is a lot of money. I'll give you one example without naming who it is, but one of the people I've made music videos for, he was signed at one point, and his music video when he was signed was $90,000. That's how much the budget was. They filmed for one night. One single night, and the budget that was charged was $90,000. You know how much I charged him when I made my music video and I filmed for 2 nights? two full days. You know, at that time when I was still just getting started, it was $3,500. That's how much I charged back then, you know? And and they flat out said, him and his manager, they said, we definitely like this music video a lot more than our, you know, high budget production one.
That's so insane, right? And
Yeah.
That's something to talk about, because that idea is one of the things that gravitated me towards what you were doing in general, because my understanding of music videos was that they were huge productions to do one. So like in the early early MTV, not early, but you know, like MTV days, late 80s, early 90s, when MTV was really a new and a new crazy awesome thing, where bands' music videos were being played on cable, and that's every band had to have a music video. I think the first actual music video was in the 80s or something, but it turned into, you know, it was amateur filmmakers doing music videos, and a lot of those directors of the music videos went on to be filmmakers. And I know a couple, one famous one from a new metal band I know was a porn director. For, I think I don't want to misquote. But I think the director for the band Flaw's music video for their first single, Payback, was done by a porn director / horror director. I could be wrong. I don't want to misquote. Somebody email me and tell me what it was. But so get back to where I'm going with it. Was my idea was that it's a full production, a full crew. And like I picture, you know, lighting guys, tech guys, grips, you know, and I have no idea. You watch the credits at the end of the movie and they go on for years. And I have no idea what any things are. Gaffers, you know, the best boy grips and things like that. And I'm like, I'm just guessing, like, it's just people on set who are holding things and doing things. And, you know, cameras have to be held, mics have to be held, things like that. And when I started working with you doing a music video, I'm like, there's no crew. There's no nothing. It's just this guy, just this one guy.
That's not the normal for what we're making. That's not typical. I'm not against having all that stuff. I'm just trying to help make it happen for a low budget. Yeah.
And then I was, you know, that's like, this is the kind of thing that turns the system up on its end, right? You know, you have that story. And it's probably a very common story with bands who are in signed groups throughout history, and ones that made music videos, and the budgets. I'm curious to know some of the budgets for some music videos that I like. Some really cool ones. I mean, there's one famous video that doesn't have any band performance in it, by a band called 3 Doors Down. Can't remember the song, but the video is just running action scenes through the whole thing.
I remember that video.
I think it's in New York City. One of my favorite videos. It's great. At the end of the video, he like saves a little girl's life getting hit by a car. But like filming through the city and filming this guy and editing and just having this astronomical.
Like, can I give one more example?
Please,
short example. Okay, one of the reasons I got into making music videos is because I was told how much was charged for a music video for a band. Again, I won't say who, but they were on Epitaph Records, and they were signed to act. And this was a 4-hour shoot in the desert. There was a helicopter rental for like an hour of that. They did some smoke bombs.
Before drones, you had to rent a helicopter.
Yes, actually, that's 100% great point. This was back when, you know, drones weren't a thing. And smoke bombs. So it was band performing in a desert-like location. I don't know how far out they actually were, for 4 hours.
Helicopter.
How much? I might have told you how much this cost before.
If you did, tell me again.
$120,000. And I was like, I'm going to get into making music videos. And then I was so disappointed with what I could get to financially with it. I was like, I got to start making videos for companies. But that's it's not just that record companies, they do spend the money a bit recklessly, especially when they're endorsing you to do so on money that you're going to have to pay back to the label, not to down all labels. I'm sure there's some good deals out there, but that's the general story that I've heard over the years. And it's not just about that. It's also just like the cost of actually making music videos as a whole. It's kind of like, if you're doing it as an individual like this, the only way to do it is to have the full band participate. And you guys don't have catering. You don't have the full crew. You don't have, there's not makeup, there's not costume and wardrobe. Like, everybody's got to provide and pitch in their own stuff to make this kind of thing work. And those are things that go past a 4-hour time slot that I'm talking about that they paid for, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, just like as one example, again, on the previous video that I was talking about that was shot in the one night for $90,000, as the band was approaching up a mountain that they were going to get to the top, they could see this. It looked like they couldn't tell what was happening. It seemed like there was a moon on top of the mountain. It was glowing. When they got up there, they realized it was the crew, and it was catering. And it was everybody helping themselves to all this food and all this, like, it was like way over the top. They had all the trailers and dressing rooms. I promise you, if you look at this video, the video itself, without saying what it is a single camera, and it's basically the equivalent of a flashlight being mounted on top of the camera. So it has that look that it's really like low budget. And that's it. That's the lighting. That's the lighting. And I was like, oh my God, like 90 grand. Are you kidding me?
Oh, they went all the catering. It must have been sushi plates. Like, well, and then the star treatment too, that when you're in a record label setting, and, I can only imagine, I've never been in it, but I can imagine that, the label setting, taking care of the artists, the artists are not action stars or anything. And the amount, like in my experience, the amount of work that I personally and my groups, whichever group it is, that put into, and just the way we, at the end of the day, we were literally beat to hell, like particularly we'll do an episode where we talk about the Giants video, because that was an ambitious thing with action. Like, we actually we went for action with fighting scenes now. So like falling and jumping and impacts and things like that. Yeah. And like, there's like no stunt man. The only stunt man we did, we switched out Kurt for an actual black belt martial artist. Amazing martial artist. But like, there's none of that. It's just us. We have to do it. And I can imagine, a group like a high level group doing a very high profile music video. Like, if there's action scenes in it, they're going to be pampered a little bit. You can't have 100%. You can't have Kirk Hammett break his hand doing a music video, and then
they're not lugging their gear around and setting up the shots, and and that's my point. Is like, it's such a group activity to pull off the scale that you're kind of witnessing in these little music videos that we're making out of here, that look like they're, I mean, come on, guys, they look pretty big budget. Like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. Like, I've gotten enough feedback. I get hired by enough people and get paid well enough to know that, there's a certain production level that I am able to hit for clients. And I know that when I'm doing these music videos, I'm oftentimes going beyond that production level that I'm hitting for clients, because I'm going all out. It's this amazing opportunity to grow as both a cinematographer and an editor, because you finally get to do wild stuff. When you're doing a lot of videos for businesses, you're working within the confined box of, one, it needs to kind of sell this product, and two, it's got to usually look natural and represent the product. You can't do some crazy color scheme on a car that has a $40,000 paint job on it. It needs to look exactly like the paint job looks. I'm taking a guess on how much the paint job was. I just know the cars themselves are anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000. So I'm assuming the paint might be 40 of that. I don't know, but it needs to look accurate, like dead on. You can't just do anything you want to with the color spec.
You don't have creative freedom
Yeah.
right? Like
I mean,
you have an extent
there
of
is
creative
some.
freedom.
There is. I
Yeah.
mean, not to say I don't mean to belittle it in that, like the Trans Am stuff in particular is like movie making experience. Like I got to learn so much with that. I love making those, but I can't just do. I mean, if you watch Cue the Muses, this is completely off the rails, weird and wild, and it doesn't even make sense what's happening. Like it's got effects and electricity and warping, and there's five Codys going into one Cody, and it's like, and there's a circle of Dave's heads circling around. Like I can't do why would I do that with the car stuff? It's like not applicable. So you get to learn all that and experiment with it. So it's just these great growth experiences for it too.
Yeah, and you get the music videos, and I have to plug it because we are the Cue the Muses podcast.
Yeah,
the stuff that I saw come from you from day one. Like when you show me videos of some of the first things you did with Kill Cluso in those early videos with the crappy power superhero guys. Your the imagination and the reach was there. The will to push the boundary, to push the limitations of what you have. Like you're working with these tools. How can I use these tools as far? How can I go as far as I can with what I've got? And that is the overall the motif of what we're doing, because every step of Cue the Muses was, what do we have to work with to make this work? We don't have a budget. We don't have $90,000 a day for music video shoots. Yeah. We've got to build a set. Okay. Where can we source these things? And then, from practical building, we took practical building as far as we could with everything we could do practical to make it look like it was something that it wasn't. Normal things, and that's practical effects. That's my favorite stuff from all the B movies. Practical effects, they're like normal everyday things, cauldrons with wires in them that don't do anything, but what do they do? In the fantasy, what is it? And then once that had been taken as far as we could take it, then filming, then in the editing room, then it's Ash, how far can you take it with what you have in the editing room? And the editing room is a place where the technology now is there for people who are one-man groups like you, a one-man show on a filming and editing platform, that you can get access to those things. And it doesn't take, it's a lot easier if you have a whole team of editors and VFX guys doing it. And then 3 months worth of work turns into 2 weeks, with schedules and different teams and team leaders and things. But then it becomes diluted to the artistic vision of the creator. It does two things. It helps and it doesn't help, because it helps and it gets more work done that you don't have to do. But then it also, it just involves more people, and you have to make sure that the people that are doing the work are on the same page as you. And that's a whole other conversation of running a business, a company with employees doing it rather than just one man.
Right. And it's like, I'm not opposed at all to having a team of people go at it to assist as I lead or direct it, because it's, our concept. So I would want to stay in charge of, that editing experience. But the reality is that we're talking about terabytes of footage to go through. And we're talking about we're breaking thousands of hours of editing, and there's no pay. So, and it's our vision. It's our fun fantasy concept. And it's just there. And you got to have the skills and the interest to do our thing, not your own thing, for free. And it's not there. It's just not there. So what does that leave? It leaves me learning how to do After Effects, because that's not something I've used Hour Effects before this project. I had only used it maybe 3 or 4 times for like a few specific things and I was every time found it daunting, because it was so different than Adobe Premiere, which is absolutely my bread and butter, and I feel very comfortable there. But I upped my, I invested back into getting a better computer. One of the big instigators was to be able to start learning how to do visual effects with After Effects for this project. And with the idea that that skill set could then carry on for my clients later. It's all an investment. It's beautiful, but
it's tuition. Yeah.
This is great.
This is a project, a personal project for you and for me, but particularly for you, what you're going through with these hundreds and now thousands of hours in the editing room is a tuition for yourself. Because if you not have done this project, you would never have made the time, right, to just learn those effects. Like it's Absolutely. You force it, and that's the kind of person you are. And there's something to be said for that, to the type of people who make these types of things happen, whether it's someone who, like you, the music and the video editing, or someone who decides, they're just fed up with, paying mechanics, and they decide to learn how to work on cars, and then they end up starting their own garage and starting a business from there, and just not being, not being satisfied with pushing it off for someone else, and never learning it and never going anywhere with it. And sometimes you find a passion in something you didn't know you had a passion for out of necessity, because you're forced to do something. And that's, the people who find that avenue to go down, to make something positive out of something that could be very negative. You could see it as a tremendous weight, just bearing down on you. You're never going to get through it. It's so much. I mean, and that way sometimes. That's never a good place to wind up. Everybody feels that way.
Everybody gets that at times for whatever they're, everyone's on their own journey with that stuff, and you'll feel overwhelmed. But it is really hard to do the triple duty. The triple duty being, and every band member can identify with this. It's like, you've got your work, you've got whatever your home life is, especially if you have kids and family. And then you've got this whole other thing that you're trying to justify making the time to do, that's taking away from those other two things, which is the pursuit of your music, or your movie that you're making on the side, or the book that you're writing, or whatever it is. And every band also, I appreciate you saying that about me, man. And I kind of want to point it back at you a little bit too, in that there's, being around lots of bands, and being in bands and stuff like that. You can usually, every band usually has a person in it that's kind of like doing a little bit more than everyone else. Yeah, they're kind of like they're the ones booking the shows, that they're the momentum that make sure that it keeps going, even when it kind of sucks for whatever reason. You hit the hurdles and all that. You're the one organizing that you get the stuff together so you can actually get it. You're making sure that the band practices are happening. And I think both you, I mean, not to take away from anybody in our bands and from yours, but I mean, come on, you're a very A-type personality. And you get a lot of things done. You keep yourself crazy busy between your job and the multiple bands and your home life. And you're that kind of personality. And I think you're more extroverted than I am, but ultimately I'm still very similar in that respect. I'm constantly filling up every hour of the day. It's like, my family hates it, but it's like, we kind of like, we know when my window is. And if we're going to do something more than that, we kind of almost have to book it. And that sounds a little depressing at times, but it's also like, it's the only way to pull all this stuff off. And, some of these things have big payoffs, but also some of these things have to be done to complete you as a person, or you will be a shell for your family. You'll be a shell of a person for your work, and what kind of life is that?
Yeah. Like how, and I appreciate the compliment too. I am extremely extroverted. I don't know where it came from, but it happened at some point. And my family is a group of saints for putting up with me the way I am. But there's what you just said reminds me of one of those talks on YouTube, and they talk about an employee. And the employee is a guy that works at like a casino, right? He has two jobs. He's like a barista, coffee guy. This is a famous YouTube talk. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a barista serving coffee at two casinos. Like say I can't remember, it's Caesar's Palace and whatever the other one is. So he's at Caesar's Palace and he's working, and the guy who is talking, giving the speech, says that he told this barista, he said, you are on point. He is happy. He's engaging. He said, man, this is the best service I have ever had. And he said, what's going on? And the guy says, I love my job. The management, the leadership here comes by and they ask me how I'm doing, and they treat me well. They ask me how they can help. And I just love the atmosphere here and the energy of the place. And he said his other job, he hates. He puts his head down. He just goes through the motions, and he doesn't interact because the managers are always coming by and they're constantly telling them what he's doing wrong and don't do this, don't do that. And the environment changes for him. So then you can have, and the moral of that story is you can have the same employee in one environment excel and be the best of anyone, and the same employee in a bad environment, and it's terrible. And it all comes down to the group leadership in the area. And I feel like with bands, the types of personalities in bands, it can have the same effect. You could have a driver in a band who's just a tyrant, and that's no reference to Defy the Tyrant, because they don't have one. They have great people in their band. Everyone is awesome. Yeah. But you could have a band environment where the guy who's the driver is a really monstrous type of person. I've seen it, and it's just I've been in bands where there's just one person, and it's my way or the highway, and it's that really bands. Yeah, that'll end a band. And it's not healthy for anybody. So my goal with bands, that's my outlet from my family as brotherhood and friendship and human interaction. I realized recently that all of the people that I keep in my friend circle are artists in some form. Like I didn't notice it till I'm almost 40 now, but it's like I realized that all the people in my innermost friend circle are other musicians, or they're artists or writers or something. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you gravitate towards that type of people. Mm-hmm. I don't think I have any friends who are lawyers or not something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that whatever you are and whatever you put out, I mean, that law of attraction principle to me has proven itself to be undeniably real. So if you put out like a bunch of negative energy, and I mean, not to get all, fruity here, but it is true. If you're a positive person and you put out a lot of positive energy and all those things that are trying to be accomplished, you end up kind of being around a lot of people that have that energy too. It's like a magnet. And if you only put out misery and blame and like you will be surrounded by that inevitably. You'll kind of fall into that pit with a bunch of people that are in that mode too.
Or you'll be surrounded by nothing.
And I've definitely, you're dead right, because I mean, I've got some friends and similar to that My Way or the Highway thing. And it's like, it's weird seeing how life plays out now that, I'm 40 and seeing where some people end up. And it's like, wow, it's like, I mean, you could see it coming, but it really came, and it's sad, and you still love those people and you feel bad for them, but they're still blaming everyone else but themselves. And I guess we've kind of gotten off on a little bit of a tangent here. I mean, but it's I think it's a good lesson in that, guys, if you're, especially if you're younger and you're in your first time band or your second band or something, like, try and be as positive and collaborative as possible and try to help pull the reins a little bit. And I think realistically, the only possible way, and the reason I still hadn't gotten to do something of this scale, like Cue the Muses is, this rock album that is a show, that has all these episodes and epic music videos. I could not have done this alone. As much as I'm talking about doing so much, we've been talking about how much I do as an independent. this was this collaborative effort with two A-type personality people. You know, it's like you can do so much more if it's not just one person dragging a band. If you get two, we're just two guys that organized all this stuff and found all the people and brought all this stuff together. And I couldn't have done it without you. And if you're in a band and you've got somebody that's kind of teetering on that, like, guys, if you team up, you can literally, it's exponentially more powerful. It's not just double the work.
Many hands make light work.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to circle back to Cue the Muses in the way, like you said, you and I, two drivers, two people in our respective bands, more of the pusher roles, and everybody has a role in a band. I love the seeing different bands and seeing how different people have different roles.
Nothing to do with the creativity part. Everybody brings the creative part, but that's the fun part. It's the other stuff that gets challenging. That's the grind of it.
The part that people don't like about bands is when it comes to a couple things, and that is the time away from those other two things, the work and the family. Because of inevitably with a band, you end up doing shows or going to record, and it takes time away. And then it also takes money. And you have to spend money to make money. And a lot of times with bands, you spend money and you don't make money. And you have to find a line where, how far am I wanting to take this for my creative, release, for my creative necessity to because I want to do this and I feel like this is a part of my life. But you can't spend your life savings and blow your entire family's well-being because you're trying to do something with a band. That would just be irresponsible and silly.
Well, and that's the reality of getting older too, versus, when you're 20, you really can take those risks. You don't have as much responsibility yet. And you should, that age from really 20 through, 25, even up to 30, it can still be there's still way less responsibility. Yep.
Depending on the individual,
makes sense. Yeah, depending on the individual, because you can have those I had a kid at 23 years old, so that immediately changed my situation. I didn't plan to at that time, and you were
25 for me.
There you go.
When I was 25,
and so that once you have a kid, perspective of life changes, and it's not just about trying to be a good Samaritan. It's like you care about life in a different way. There's this little being that comes out, and then they are already more important than you, like to you, like you're already ready to take a bullet, or you'd sacrifice yourself in the matter of, a few hours of getting to know this little person,
and that's
unlike
anything. That's instinctual. That's preservation of the human race type of it's embedded. As long as there's nothing mentally wrong with you, that is embedded into who you are as a human. And there's a young man in Tallahassee that I had a conversation with that I want to explore more. His name is Landon, and he just turned 21, and he's the front man for a band in Tallahassee called Falls Chase. And Falls Chase is an extremely talented young band. I think they're a 4-piece. So there's Landon, who sings vocals, plays guitar. They have a lead player, drummer, and a bassist. And Landon is he is an A-type young personality. His stage presence is like Eddie Vedder, like early Eddie Vedder reincarnate. He just has this charisma about him, and he does very well fronting his band. And I had a conversation with him one of the last trips to Tallahassee, where he came to. I was with Kurt Rogers from Defy the Tyrant, and we were at the Legacy, which is the Warrior. It's Shane and Andrew's place, and Landon showed up, and he reached out. He started a conversation with Kurt and I, and it was he basically just said, I want to talk to you guys. And he wanted some advice, and I want to continue. I'd like for Landon, Landon, if you watch this, I'd like to get you in on one of these episodes as a young 21-year-old, extremely talented artist who is at a point right now that I feel is a crossroads in where to go next in a band, very good local following right at the beginning. That's right, right at the beginning. He's probably working somewhere on a job, kind of getting into a trade or something. And, what's the next step? What's the next logical step? And he asked, and I felt pretty honored and privileged as one of the older guys, like I've been doing this music thing on the side, but we're doing it forever. And I think that, Kurt and I talked about it. Between the two of us, we did have some good advice for him. And we want to sit down and have that kind of talk, like young musicians being able to have like almost mentorship from people to make the right decisions. I've heard horror stories, back in the day of like young bands being found by labels and then getting led in this weird, whirlwind of a career to wind up just, really lost in life and not really having a good ground for being who they are as a person. I hate to say it, and a lot of times that's what leads to substance abuse or alcoholism or things like that. Like to be able to lead these like young guys down the right path, to make the right decisions, to do it the right way, or to not do it at all if that's if it comes down to that. But just it's maybe another topic for another episode. I think that we could touch on is how the journey to get to where we are with Cue the Muses. By the time we started Cue the Muses, the mindset was everyone we bring into this has their own creative and artistic freedom in their role, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
When we hired the vocalist, we didn't say I think this or this or this. There was absolutely none of that. It was like, this is just what my part and Ash's part is. And this is the foundation. So now, it started with bringing Tim in. We hired Tim came in, and Tim, excellent musician, another very, very strong-willed A-type personality type of musician, and absolutely a driver. Tim DeDuro is a driver. He is another, leadership role in every band that I know that he's been in, and came in and gave him absolutely free reign on his section. And it was amazing. And then I think that to me is what makes it so special with what we're doing versus something, I heard, like maybe like James Hetfield and Lars, kind of like, I feel like they're historically more like My Way, and that Metallica is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I love
obviously,
but I've but I've heard that's the way it is when they write, like that Metallica basically is Hetfield and Lars. And
did you see that documentary, Some Kind of Monster?
I don't know if I have.
Oh my God. You would know if you had.
Yeah, I guess I haven't. I've seen Through the Never, the film that they did.
Yeah, that. Well, I don't want to criticize things as much as I just want to say what's good. And what's good is Some Kind of Monster, in that it's actually also terrible. Because, I mean, you want to talk about like it. I think they highly regretted making it, but it was them making an album. I can't even remember which album. And it had a lot of realness to it. And it was, oh dude, it's like crazy. And I was like, the whole time, dude, it's hilarious. I mean, it is laugh out loud hilarious how intense it gets at times, but it is them battling with each other. It's different producers coming in and saying things about parts they're working on. It's them criticizing each other's parts and starting off soft and people blowing up out of nowhere. I mean, it is embarrassing. And you've got to watch it, man. I mean, it's like, I was like rolling laughing.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you've ever been in a band, a rock band, you got to watch it, kind of thing. Because there's so much that's relatable with it that is just, but it's to the max, and it's a Metallica on top of all that. So it's really good. But You bring up great things, man. I mean, we're approaching our hour. I just want to close out with some thoughts on that mentorship aspect. I think there's a lot of advice that that people that have been trying to do this for a long time can definitely offer younger musicians. I think one of the things that is a little hard to wrap our heads around that nobody quite understands at the moment is like, it's a more fragile, unknown time to be. If you're planning to get rich off of this, if there's ever been a time of uncertainty about how this can work out for you, look, enjoy the ride, guys. I mean, that's one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is that I think the more that you can lean into it and enjoy the experience, and I don't mean be indulgent and just do drugs. I mean, like the creative experience, the buddyship, the camaraderie, the journeys, the adventures, the hard work, the grinding it, the eating the lame food in the middle of the night or not having food because you got out too late and the restaurants are closed. You got to drive to the next show. Like, make the most of it, laugh it up, and just enjoy it. And that's the best chance you have of being successful with it. But there's a high probability that at the end of it, that is the experience that you got. And for God's sakes, at least get some recordings made, because there's so many bands that I know that have been in bands and they worked together for years and they never even got to the point of getting in a studio to record a few songs. And I think that's an absolute shame, because regardless of those songs taking off and getting on some Billboard chart, I guarantee you will never, ever regret having recorded those songs and having at least that like little relic of that experience. You will treasure it. You will love listening back to that 20 years later. It's the archive of what that experience was. But just enjoy it as much as you possibly can, because at the end of the day, that is really what the journey is more important than where you end up. And if you end up somewhere amazing, absolutely fantastic. I think the best chance you have of getting somewhere amazing is leaning into it, like I'm kind of talking about. And just know that if it doesn't work out, like, still love it. Like, love that you got to do that. I mean, it is amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience. But even the hard parts, that's part of the beauty of it. But don't only feel like you're doing it to chase some big contract at the end, because we don't even know what contracts are right now. We don't know if AI is going to be making music better than you in the next tomorrow, or, there's no telling where this is all going to land. It might just be this amazing creative experience. For all we know, this is the last hurrah for the human creative spirit of music making. You might be at the end of the road, guys, so get it in while you can.
Yeah, just keep it going, because it is weird stuff's coming. Weird stuff's already here. It's already here.
Yeah.
You just said it. I mean, mountain climbers train for the climb. They don't train for the pose at the summit.
That's right. Absolutely.
It's about the climb, man.
Yeah. And we just have no idea. Nobody knows how the monetization aspect of where music and film are landing right now. It's a weird, unterrained thing. I do think one of the best things that you can do, though, is be trying to build up your own individual thing. This is coming from, I'm not going to sit here on some post like we have millions of views or something. This isn't some wisdom I'm passing down, but I think no matter what, even the people that produce great outcomes financially, at this point, you have to have the foundation of your own thing online, like your own home, your own, you have to build up not just social media, but your own content library. And you have to have a stamp digitally online. You cannot just be writing show to show and have a song up, like one recording on a page that has nothing of interest on it other than that. Like, you have to build up that thing for people to experience digitally too. Not just a social media post, but an actual like content. You need content.
This is the world. This is the way the world is now. I mean, earlier today, and to touch on that, the digital mark earlier today, I was a little dumbfounded. Today I spent 4.5 hours in a courtroom in a trial, right? And I saw armed security guards in the courtroom in trial, sitting on pews,
Right.
I'm not playing.
I don't doubt it at
wow.
all.
It's like, but it's just like, you see, it's like, the shows, the X Mirror shows, whatever,
Black Mirror.
on streaming platforms. Yeah. Like, this thing that is science fiction, is usually what becomes science reality.
Yeah.
The trend, the overall
Scientists
trend.
will say that. I've heard them say that. It's like they kind of show you an idea and it's like, yeah, let me try to make that.
Because then people, it's romanticized instantly.
Yeah.
When science fiction is romanticized, and then there are very smart people who romanticize it, and then it becomes reality. And that we're not far from who knows what. And at mine and your age, not to take a dark twist on this or anything, but people our age, we're 40, we have kids who are, that's the legacy. The legacy for us personally is our as a musician, like you said, is that digital stamp, that that the recording, that's and that's how I feel about it. Every time I make a recording, and I want to do as many as I can, because that's a legacy of me as a musician. That's forever. Like Beethoven, people still listen to Beethoven. That is that is top tier legacy. How many years ago was Beethoven, Mozart, those guys, and still beautiful, still music that is used today. But our kids are our actual legacy for the future, and that's the future they're going to, is whatever that ends up being. But not to go dark with it. It's just
I think we're heading into a playground of creativity and tools that'll enable, just like the democratization of the video stuff that's enabled me and us to be able to make Cue the Muses what it is with no budget. Ultimately, I mean, we keep saying no budget. We are taking advantage of this, equipment that have built up over years, but it's all out of pocket. And it's not like this is how we got the money to do it. It's like a lot of hard work that built up the opportunity to put in a lot more hard work with these cool tools. But the point is that this playground of creativity and all these tools and stuff, it's going to be amazing. I think what we don't understand, and nobody can really know, is what's happening with how things are reassigned in the world of value. How valuable is music? How valuable are films? What's the expectation of free? Who pays what for what? What's going on with copyright? What's going on with people using each other's stuff? If AI can get you 80% of the way there on certain creative things, maybe the most human part about it is going to be the live show experience, and then you got to get people out to the live show. So and then maybe, you get it from ticket sales and that's it. But it's just nobody knows where this is going to land on the value scale on any of this creative stuff, whatever direction that is, including painting and writing. And it's just bizarre, because the creative sector was supposed to be the safe zone from AI, the human part.
Yeah.
And that's why when we wrote this show idea, that was still kind of the scenario. And theoretically, it was like all the trucks are going to be everything that could be automated mechanically would. And, blue collar work might be more in danger. And then it's actually it's the creative sector that's immediately in danger. All of a sudden, every facet of creativity now in danger. And when we say danger, it's like danger of being of like value. Like, how do you make a living from it?
Yeah, because where is the paycheck for a writer to be commissioned to write an episode of anything? Say it's a 30-minute episode of a sitcom. Where's the justified weekly paycheck for a writer to spend a week writing an episode when an AI program can do it in 12 milliseconds? And that's not even an exaggeration. That's that's legit. The AI programs they're getting to the point where they can generate full conversations and actual concepts, plots, and executions of plots in seconds.
And people will argue with you, back to you, and say, yeah, but it's not, you can tell it's not as good yet. And it's like, right, yet.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't know how good this is going to get.
This isn't going to be a what if anymore.
Yeah.
Not for much longer.
Yeah.
Like eventually, this will no longer be a what if. It'll just be what is.
I think what's going to happen is that human created stuff is going to be like vinyl, and it's like for whatever reason, there's going to be a collective people that are like, yeah, but this is real. This was made by a human. Check this out.
You hear that? You hear that?
Yeah,
fuzz?
and you got to get
the fuzz in there.
Got see all that you hear all that imperfection. See, you hear him flubbing through those notes and how bad that's real.
Reel to reel recordings. There's no punch ins. There's no copy paste. This is one take.
You can tell. See how thin it is? You hear how thin that is? Yeah, that's because it was actually recorded with a microphone in real life.
Yeah, you hear how thin and crappy that sounds? That's why.
They'll love all the imperfections, you know. We're just gonna we'll be paid for imperfections, you know.
That's it.
Anyway, on that note, man, it's always good getting to talk with you. Let's plan to be back next week. We don't know what the topic will be for next week, but well, actually, maybe it'll be fighting giants, like we discussed.
Absolutely.
The visual EP and the new stuff coming out.
I do. I think we should go through that Fighting Giants, the EP, the visual EP and filming of that. That's going to be a fun episode. And I do have David, the vocalist for Fighting Giants, lives in Dallas, and I've got a trip scheduled to fly out to Dallas and hang out with him at his place. Nice. And I think what I'd like to do is I might need to do a stripped down, mobile version of this where I'm there with him, and we definitely need to get him talking because he's in Dallas. He has joined a group over there. They've got a weird band name. I'm not even going to say it right now. There's this whole conversation, this whole weird thing. Like I was like, "What's the name of your band?" And he told me. I said, "Really?"
Yeah.
Really? Okay. So we're going to, that's going to be, I'll be there Friday, September 1st, and I'll be there Saturday, September 2nd. So if we can make it work, maybe that night or something, we'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out for sure. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Great getting to talk with you.
Good talking to you. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it immensely. And by the way, just to close it out, cuethemuses.com, as you can see down there, the episodes are free. The music videos are up as standalone music videos. If you like what you see over there, for God's sakes, guys, please share it. Let people know that it exists. If you don't dig it, no worries. But if you dig it, please share it. Let people know that it exists, because we need more people to know about it.
If you think it sucks, share it and tell people that it sucks.
Yeah, actually, I mean, share with the most famous person you can and say, you won't believe how terrible this is. Check this out.
Excuse me, Mr. Jack Black. This is the worst television thing musically I have ever seen.
Not even TV.
You have got to see how awful this is. These two think they can do what in the... Hey!
Hey, and on that note, bye. I'll see you guys later. Peace.
I hit end. Did it end? Did it not end?